You have call a mic? Call a mic. Okay. You are the technical expert here. So let's begin, doing that construct with you, because I understand that it's an assignment for you. So how do you do that? As I explained earlier, this is based on the 3 dimensions: health, education we call, but it is basically about the knowledge and income. But human development is not just about these 3 dimensions, but it's like a huge, infinite choices, but we are prioritizing these 3 to construct the index. After identifying this, you identify the proxy, that is a life expectancy to capture the health dimension. Then I mentioned about a normalization process. That normalization process is this is a normalization process. So if you are doing the life expectancy variable of a country, this is the life expectancy variable of that country. You need to take it from the minimum you assume. Like we assume 25 and 85 as the minimum and maximum. So this will be 85 minus 25 constant for all the countries or all the states or all the districts, whatever be the unit of analysis. But here you have taken the life expectancy minus x minimum, that is a 25. So this is a way you translate each of the life expectancy variables of the particular country and do the normalization. After doing the normalization, you need to incorporate it here. Now education, I mentioned that mean years of schooling is a variable that proxy your knowledge. Thank you so much. It's working. Now it's better. It's better, no? No. Hello? It's better? Yeah, maybe this is. It's a okay. So, okay. All the variables you need to transform it like this. And the basic source of reference which Hari asked us, he was mentioning that I just googled and I'm getting some weird sites, but what is the original source? So 1995 Human Development Report you need to read. Because for the first time ever, they explained everything in detail about this Human Development Report in the 1995 HDR. And over the years, there is a revision in the technical manner in which this is calculated. Like as I mentioned earlier, till 2010 it was based on that arithmetic mean, like giving equal importance. But from 2010, it is like your geometric mean. All the variables have to undergo a geometric mean, and then you capture this. But the question here is, now I will give you the technical notes, and you have to take the recent HDR, 2024 HDR, go to the annexure, you get the technical notes in which each step, how to calculate that. And also in the UN website, you need not do any calculation because it's all formula linked. The moment you put the values of your country in there, you get the result. Like that, a full template is available online in the UN page. So that also we can take. So once you collect the data, you put the data there, you get the HDI index or GDI data variable. Okay, so I think I should share with you these two if you are unable to find the technical notes and the template. Now, how to translate this HDI into GDI? That's a question, and we also need to talk about incorporating the unpaid care into it. So let's first tackle how to translate the HDI into GDI. So each of these variables, these are all aggregate terms. So we need to unpack it. So health, this is like the total life expectancy of men and women together. So when we unpack it, we have to use that harmonic mean I mentioned. This is again a methodology of equally distributed equivalent by again Amartya Sen and Sudhir Anand. That paper you need to read to understand what exactly is the equally distributed equivalent. These are original papers, you know. And once you understand how to do that, all those processes you need to take it up as student, but I will give you the final equation. Equation is, can you see what epsilon I put it here? So it's basically you are giving penalty to the gender inequality in this equation by disaggregating the human development index into gender disaggregated index. Like I will give you an example. Suppose we imagine this X refers to life expectancy. So this XF is then life expectancy of female. This XM is a life expectancy of male, and it's an inverse. Okay, it is a reverse. XM or XF. So this is clear. NF is the share of total females in the total population, because we have to put the weight. So this is clear for you, right? You're putting the variable of share of female in the total population here. Here you're putting the inverse of the life expectancy of female. Again, you have to work it for the male component, that is the share of male in total population, and inverse of the male in the life expectancy. Life expectancy of male reverse. Now let's do this 1 by 1 minus epsilon. Epsilon is a kind of a gender inequality which takes the value 2. But you can question why it is taking the value 2. If it takes the value 2, the entire thing will be based on minus 1. Then you have to take the entire portion into 1 by this portion down. That's the only transformation. It's very easy to calculate. So epsilon takes the value 2 when they do the work in the UNDP. But Stefan Clisson, an economist, questioned why it is 2. Can we do some other values for the epsilon? And he calculated many things. But for the simplicity, the moment you put it 2, the entire portion of this will be reversed, like 1 by x of this. So that's the way it is calculated. And this is based on that equally distributed equivalent, and based on that, for each of the variable you do a gender sensitive indicator, a gender equity sensitive indicator. You call it as GESI. So in order to understand in detail this methodology, you need to read Anand, Sudhir Anand and Sen. So at 1995 HBR. Then, as he mentioned, who revolutionized this field away from GDP are Mehboob Haq and Amartya Sen. They created the revolution. These are the two key economists. And in order to understand that, you read that 1995 HBR. That's very important. That's the original source. Okay. Now comes the question I asked about the statistically invisible care economy. So there is nothing about the care economy over here. So we have done the transformation or the revolution from GDP, and this is like go beyond GDP, right? So we have done that revolution to HDI, but from HDI to GDI, we have not incorporated what is not measured and what is not valued. So that is the next step which Alina asked. So we need to do that. The why. This is not the entire why. What we call is why is only that 8 hours we work and earn the income, it is monetized. So how we can work with why? Incorporating that Alina's variable, unpaid care. So there, first step is the time use. Okay. And what exactly is the time use? You ask the chronology of the time of a person in terms of time within 24 hours. So if you have T1, T2, T3, the work done, then how do you measure this? Something needs to be imputed to the time to get a value. So how do you do that? You need to have a construct exactly like GDP or similar to GDP. That means in terms of time you have your work, but you need to impute something to the time of the work to get that constraint, to measure. So what do you impute to the time to get that value? There are different ways in which you can impute. Okay, we have done the time-based survey based on the MOSPI. In the back of that MOSPI report, we have the survey. We have all the codes. We can ask the people and we can fill the codes. Economic codes are ready in terms of time, but we need to value that. What to be imputed to the time? Any guess? Guess. You may be correct, but you just tell me. Something needs to be imputed to that, right? Give her the correct, give her the roving mic. She's answering correctly. Exactly. Yeah.
If the same work is done as a paid work, we can impute that particular cost to or that particular payment to this work. If my mother is doing sweeping work in someone else's house, that it incurs a cost. If that is imputed to that work, it can work. But I think my mother is not doing only sweeping or cleaning. She is doing multiples of works. So how we can add all those tasks? Because cleaning in someone's house, impute, for example, if it is 1,000 rupees for one day, my mother might clean several hours. How can we calculate that? And she is doing care work, looking after the kids. How we can add that? Is there any country in the world who add up all those tasks of one particular day? We have to convert it into GDP and work.
Wow, wonderful. Good. Can anybody answer the question? Of course. So she's telling, and you remember Pigu in the National Income Accounting chapter, there's a statement that, Pigu mentioned that if you marry the person who helps you, GDP decreases. Because, she was doing that work, for a payment. The moment you marry her, GDP declines because she will do the same work unpaid. So she's telling that how you can. And one clue I get from Anila and Alina's responses: payment, wage. In the market hierarchy, if you have different wages for the work done in the market, can that be imputed to the time of the work done in the care economy sector? Of course, we can do that. That's only one way, but we may get underestimates because the way in which you told, the nuanced way in which you can capture this work and this payment, this work, that is not there. So you do in the wage hierarchy, take the minimum wage, impute that to the work done, of course adjusting for the hours, the time, and come up with the value. The care is also there in the market. So in the market wages, in the market wage hierarchy, use the minimum wage, impute all these things. We call this methodology which you mentioned, that is called the wage of the global substitute method. Global substitute, why is it global substitute? Because we don't have specialized responses or specialized payments of wages to each work done in the care economy sector. So we use a globalized substitute, and that globalized substitute is the minimum wage in the wage hierarchy prevailing in the market. So that's one way. It's a brilliant guess. But there are different ways in which you can impute the time work done in the care economy sector. Another way is pricing. You mentioned about wages, do the payment. Another way is pricing. Like, when you incorporate the 1993 extruded national income framework, collecting fuel, collecting water, ensuring clean fuel, ensuring clean water in home, that's basically the responsibility of women and girls. So how you help that? If there is a deficiency in the public infrastructure related to the fuel, energy infrastructure, or to the water provisioning, women, they have to ensure that. So let us do that. Let us collect water. Both of us are collecting water, and our friends are imputing the value of work done in the care economy sector by Alina and me. So Alina may walk You may be in Rajasthan, you may walk more to get the water. I may get the water within a few minutes. But the moment you impute, like if you're collecting some certain liters of water, the moment you impute that time, all the quintals of fuel you collected, they are valuing both of us equally. Because you are collecting 1 quintal, I am collecting, but the intensity of the effort is not getting captured the moment you do a pricing. So this is the second methodology. Now you have another method, like opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost of us? Like we can impute that. So global substitute, like Alina suggested, specialized substitute, then pricing mechanisms, opportunity cost. These are the different ways in which you can impute into the time of the work done in the care economy sector and come up with a value. You may not call it as a GDP or GHP or anything, but you basically want to show that this was statistically invisible so far. Because what was statistically invisible will not get into public policy. You need to measure, you need to value to show about this care economy. Then only the policies will start, responding to your needs. So data building, surveys, these are very important. After that, computing, the data analytics and the constructing indices, that is very relevant. So there are 3 methods. One is global substitute, the other is specialized substitute, third is pricing, fourth is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost, basically economists won't agree because the estimates can be of a huge range. Like my opportunity cost, if I imply and do the calculation, that will be one number. Your opportunity cost, you imply, that will be another. Sheetaman's opportunity cost will be another. So opportunity cost can give you a range of results. But the moment you put a globalized substitute, she will come up with a smart number that this is one number. So public policy, we have numbers. I have some numbers to show you. I will share later. As per the time survey, we have collected, that work done in time for the men and women in different states of India. We have 2 rounds of time survey in India. One is in early 2000s, another is in 2020. So in 2020, all the states' data is available. In 2000, we have only 6 states. So then you need to impute that, whatever, the global substitute, the minimum wage into that, and you come up with a number, and the number show that it's almost 50% of GDP, GSDP. So the care economy, once you computed that care, divided by GSDP into 100 if you take, it may be even 50 for many states. So what exactly are we talking about when we talk about the economic policy only for that market segment? Like you need to read the Gary Becker model, and there is a statement by Gary Becker that if you don't take into consideration the resource allocation and the efficiency within the unpaid sector, you are looking only partially to the economy. Like time, non-market time, market time and non-market time. If you value only the market time, your overall economic welfare of the country will be partial, incomplete. So you need to incorporate the invisible so that the overall well-being is also going to. So it has got dual dimensions of equity and efficiency. Equity is good for women, efficiency is good for your country. So World Bank and IMF are very much interested in gender budgeting because it's an efficiency perspective. Gender budgeting can improve the country's GDP to the next level because you're incorporating the work of the women, or you're getting that feminization. You know that, right? Initially, we may not respond much to the increases in the GDP, but later on there will be a U-turn. That feminization you can happen only if the gender budgeting focuses on care economy sector. So gender budgeting basically talks about how you apply a gender lens to the existing budgets. Now I am taking her question, Fasia's question. So gender budgeting is basically you are applying a gender lens because budget is gender neutral. With such respect, if you look into the budget process, how the budget process begins in our country? First, there will be a call circular or a budget circular. A budget circular is asking all the ministries to prepare their demand for grants so that it will be done synchronized by the Ministry of Finance before the budgets. So when they do the demand for grants, at that stage itself, If they don't incorporate the gender budgeting element, then this demand for grants process is partial. So if you ask me, it's a legal procedure, it's with seriousness, budget law, that's legal in that way. It may not be legal in terms of public interest litigation or anything. Then why you're not using gender budgeting? It's a good tool. If you don't use, the women in our country can go with a public interest litigation, just like the way employer of last resort is a public interest litigation. Like you are guaranteed 100 days job. If you don't provide me, it's a public interest litigation. That's also legal path, right? But gender budgeting is a finance law. So after that, the ministries will come forward with their demand for grants. Then, at the final stage, they will collate everything into a statement when they put forward the budget, that across sectors, what is the kind of gender lens we apply. It is not only exposed. Exposed means whatever is the existing schemes, you apply a gender lens and come up with a number. No. This framework also gives you provisioning to design new programs, new schemes. For example, energy infrastructure, putting a gender lens by the Department of Petroleum was never there when we began the exercise in 2014 or 2004. 2004 was the first time gender budget statement. Their energy infrastructure, when we started talking about apply a gender into infrastructure, they shouted at us, no, infrastructure cannot be gender neutral. It is gender neutral. It cannot be gender partitioned. But now we realized infrastructure is not gender neutral. We need to have sensitive policies incorporating a gender lens even in infrastructure. So energy infrastructure came later. So many programs were incorporated with gender budgeting later. We basically identified a part B and part A, and now it is a part C. That's the way the gender budgeting is prepared. In the sense, you look into the budget, identify, look through all the demand for grants. That is an expenditure profile. You go to the union budget website, take the expenditure profile in detail, demand for grants, look for gender related programs. You call out maybe 45 to 50 programs. But when you add it up, these 40 to 50 programs may be less than 1% of the entire budget. Then you can't say that our country is spending only less than 1% for the gender development. No. Then part B of the gender budgeting statement, that looks into integrating a gender component into the mainstream programs. Mainstream programs in the sense, employment, public works. Today there is strike. Okay. What's the theme? Yeah? Protection of girls in the camp. Safety concerns. There were some bad instances happened in the campus. Oh, the bad gate. Look at that. So we are talking something very related to that. And you have to speak to me that what we can do related to this. Okay. So let me, these are the moments in which we have to go ahead with the thing, and I will open the floor. Part B, right? Part A is a specifically targeted programs for women you identify. That is less than 1% of budget. Then 99% of budget, how do you apply a gender lens? That you need to think. Then you need to call out employment, poverty, microfinance. There are many programs in the budget which has an intrinsic gender component. Then third is whatever we cannot partition into gender, leave it that. So that is a part C. So this is a way in which the gender budgeting is getting developed across countries. And to your question, Alina, which country has incorporated unpaid care sector? I know that it is valued, but not integrated into GDP. It was kept as, correct, satellite accounts. It was kept as satellite accounts. Just like the way we do green accounting, it was kept as satellite accounts, and it was used to understand the statistical invisibility of the sector. So that's the way it is done. Now, let me ask you a question. For women or the gender development, for the human development, government can design two kinds of expenditure. One is infrastructure. Like if you have more roads, it's good for men and women. But I mentioned about specifically targeted programs because all men and women are not able to access roads or access schools or access hospitals. What is preventing from accessing it? That also we need to look into. So that is also gender budgeting. But why we are focusing just on that? Then you need to read a book or a paper by FAN. So in that paper by IFPRI, International Food Processing Research Institute, the dilemma was like that. Their results show that public expenditure on infrastructure has got more impact on reducing the poverty than specifically targeted programs designed by a country. If that is the case, why should you have specifically targeted programs? You should only have infrastructure, isn't it? So then it was articulated that the men and women, they have strategic needs and practical needs. Strategic needs means, the distance traveled by all the people in this classroom may not be equal. You need to understand the story of that person. If they are not able to perform means what is the story behind that person. You need to help them. You cannot assume that everybody are equal and you need to behave equally with everyone. That's not the case. We have benefit incidence analysis of fiscal policy. Benefit incidence analysis, it is by Dawood. That World Bank paper you need to read. Benefit incidence analysis. So this is basically, benefit incidence analysis is you take the unit utilized, unit cost and unit utilized, okay? So unit cost is the kind of cost you have divided by the total enrollment if you are looking for the education sector, and then unit utilized you need to take from the service, like how many girls access the schools, how many boys access the schools. So you can do a benefit incidence analysis to capture the distributional impacts of the fiscal policy. So that is very important. And the inference is coming from benefit incidence analysis. There is no social justice. The people Q1, Q2 across income quintiles, if you look into, the people of Q1, the lowest income quintile is not accessing the services. Maybe there is an elite capture. There are different ways in which you can look into the distributional impacts of fiscal policy when you study the benefit incidence. These are, like thesis, people do thesis on this benefit incidence, fiscal incidence. You can look into that. So that's about gender budgeting. It is not easy to talk about gender budgeting, in a short time. But that's it about. First I mentioned about how it is applied and then the technical and analytical framework. And third question is that if they came up with the result that your mainstream spending has more impact on poverty than the specialized targeted programs. If that is the case, we should not have any targeted programs. So that's a question we need to ask, because R&D roads are important. For example, let's take up the case of maternal mortality rate. How do you reduce the maternal mortality? If you are the district collector, in your district, if the maternal mortality is high, as a district collector, you have the flexibility to work with certain programs. How do you reduce that? You need to ask a question. Otherwise, in another district, if you're a district collector, women are moving away from your place to the urban centers or other countries as domestic help or something. How do you want to prevent the absence of mother in that house, in your place? As a district collector, you can take several initiatives. So you need to plan and you need to implement. Then how do you reduce this maternal mortality rate? Maternal mortality rate, to reduce that, you need not have any technological revolution in medical science, right? Somebody has to attend the mother when they deliver the kid, so that like post-delivery hemorrhage should not happen and she should be safe, both the girl, the baby and the mother. So how do you ensure that? Look at the statistics of institutionalized delivery in India or in any country for that matter. If the institutionalized delivery is not happening and if the delivery is happening at homes, the risk of mom getting into problem is very high. So how do you do that? And there is an article in the British Journal. They call about 3 delays when we talk about this. The first delay is, especially girls and women, and we have the problem of interpreting our lack of wellness to others. Like we take time. We think that we are okay. When we are unable to hold further, we into our close relative. That's when it comes to the stage in which you have a child within you, that time taken to articulate your close relative, that's very important. That takes time. So this is the delay number one. This delay number one can be only alleviated when you do awareness programs or something to the women that you should not do this. Speak up. You should not hold back. Women usually hold back. Second, they don't know to interpret their illness. Second delay is, once the woman interprets that she's feeling unwell, the relatives have to take her to the hospital. If there is good infrastructure, that can be faster. If there is no infrastructure, the time required for the woman to go to the hospital is delayed. So there comes the infrastructure, it's important. Third is, once they reach the hospital, World Bank studies about absenteeism, that's the quality of public spending, is related to the absenteeism of the personnel in a particular public provisioning center. So if the doctors are absent, if the attendants are absent, then what will happen there? So there are different ways in which you can study about this maternal mortality rate and how do you want to reduce it to a 0 MMR region of district. So you need to work with all the aspects. How can you reduce to the 0 MMR? These are the questions in which you can work at the ex-ante levels and incorporate that into the gender budgeting process from the ex-ante manner. Now go ahead, we will open the floor once again and take questions. Yeah, Malayalam chodikam. Anybody who doesn't understand Malayalam in our class? Hands up. Oh, you're from which country? Give the mic to him. Yeah.
My name is Vincent Tutai from Kenya.
Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you share some of your experiences? Your aspiration is to get to the UN or multilateral organizations after you finish your class, so that you can work for the people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the pressing human justice issue in Kenya right now you're facing?
Currently, maybe I guess it is the same the ones we are experiencing here.
MMR.
Yes.
Again, about your friends, the girls, when they explain their issues, mobility, what about the education attainment of girls?
Yeah, there's some gaps between now education. Yes.
Gaps in education.
Yeah.
Okay. You have policies for that?
As of now, the government is implementing that education to be universal for all school-going children. Yes.
What about when you go up, like in India, they have a broad base, but when it goes for higher education, enrollment decreases like a pyramid. When you go for the higher studies,
we have a problem because education in our country is financed individually. Yes, so the government actually finances education to some point, then the parent or the student self-finances for higher education.
yeah, we also have the problem, but our elementary education is mostly supported by the state. But we also have the financing human development when we think, we have these issues, and our health budget is only 1% of GDP. For the education financing, if you look into, as a percentage of GDP in India, we should realize to 6% of GDP, but it is not like that. And we estimated the national health accounts. And there, out-of-pocket spending, if you have a health issue, is very high in India. It is self-financing. So especially for the poor, people, if there is a health issue that goes catastrophic, their household budget goes catastrophic, because that nobody is helping them support. In India, we frame some insurance schemes to support the poor people, but insurance is again making this catastrophic nature of health spending further catastrophic, in the sense the insurance is not the great way of supporting poor people's health problems, right? So financing of human development, if you ask me, we have come up with new programs on health, but in terms of insurance, but insurance made the system further expensive, and it is not supporting the poor people. They are going, their debt is increasing. If they have a health issue, their debt will increase. Their budget go catastrophic. Out of spending, that is very high in India as well. So thank you for sharing those two concerns. More you want to share?
Thank you, sir.
These are the important issues. Your name is Vincent, right? And in India, I also need to share with Vincent that we have a problem of gender discrimination even before birth. Like, if you know that if the girl child is in your womb, then you may take a decision that she should not live. So in a country where gender discrimination starts even before birth, the role of public policy needs to look into that, why there is an adverse sex ratio in India when it comes to the child sex ratio. So these are pressing concerns for India, because if you look into certain pockets in India, sex ratio is very, adverse. Then we have intergovernmental fiscal transfers, like finance commissions. They are sharing the funds from, the tax devolution from, sending to the states. So from the financing human development perspective, can you imagine of incorporating a variable in the tax formula related to the human development? So far it's not there. Like then Punjab, some provinces I am explaining, Haryana, these are the states in which the adverse sex ratio is there. But if you put, the moment you put the sex ratio in the tax transfer formula, and then the states which have high or adverse sex ratio, they will not get good funds. Money speaks. So this is one way. Climate is already incorporated in the tax transfers. So why can't you incorporate human development criteria in the tax transfer? The existing tax transfer formula is that, I think, we have population, area, climate change concerns, a tax effort, demographic transition. These are the variables in which we transfer income distance, like per capita income, the distance of a state from the highest per capita income. So these are the variables in which we transfer the funds. Do you want to complicate this formula, or you want to incorporate human development into this? This is one way of answering this question. Okay, then a group of economists say, don't get into the unconditional tax transfers, you get into the conditional. Conditional transfers means you decide tied. This program is designed, this transfer is tied to improve the gender, improve the MMR, like that you can tie the conditional transfer. So many economists believe that tax transfer need not be the path for the human development, but I do feel that even tax transfer is good. Like if you incorporate one variable over there and give a weightage, that speaks. Yeah, you have a point over there.
You have once mentioned in the session that if this measure, that if human development index is incorporated into this tax transfer case, then Kerala will get more and more funds. Something related to that you mentioned when speak about finance commission.
Yeah, you were there in conclave.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I will tell you that part. The existing problem is that why the states, some states are not receiving funds. That's exactly what Elena is saying. Like, if the formula is based on 45% to income distance, then the poor states will of course get money, but the states which are growing may not get money, because they are growing states, you are penalizing for growing. So my question was, how do you balance equity and efficiency in the finance commission formula? If equity is everything, then you have to give weightage 45%. Then population, thank you. Population is giving a huge weightage. Thank you so much. So one way we can do is that we can unpack this tax formula. Okay, reduce the tax transfers weightage given to the income distance. Then the chairman will ask a counter question, how will I work with the poor states? What is the formula? So we are telling that we are not against equity, but our fiscal space is constrained because we are unable to do expenditure design because the central transfer is coming down. So what is the solution? So then you have to say that the weightage given to the other efficiency related variables within the intergovernmental fiscal transfer should be high. So that's the equity versus efficiency consideration. And it is a debate now. Like, if as long as 45% is for the income distance, Kerala will not get because Kerala is growing. Yeah? And population, we control the population, we send all the girls to the schools. So, yeah, we won't. So there should be a balance in this intergovernmental fiscal transfer formula. I think the 16th Finance Commission will take it up seriously. Climate is captured by the net forest cover, that climate variable. So how many of you believe that intergovernmental fiscal transfer, we can think of integrating human development? Yes or no? Yes, first you tell, then you can tell no. Yes. Yeah, okay. Most of the classes, yes or no? Yes, okay. Okay. Where are you from? Both of you, the girls here? North Kerala? You give the moving back to her, let her speak. You're from? Kasaragod, okay. And what about you?
I'm from Malappuram.
Malappuram. You studied there before coming here or Kerala University?
No, I was in Farouk College, Kozhikode.
Of course, okay. Why don't you speak to me something about this human development? It was interesting. What is the point that you enjoyed most? What are your doubts? You can just tell something.
Let me hear, after that I will ask you.
No, you ask because then I can talk to you. I'm getting bored at you. So far we have spoken something. Yeah?
Yeah. Can you tell me about the missing woman, the concept of Amritya Sen?
Oh, wonderful. That's a very contextual question. I'll explain. What is the threshold sex ratio, the ideal sex ratio, and the realized sex ratio? If there is a difference, that differentials we calculate as missing women. And that's, millions of women are missing. So that's the way we compute. Like we have, I will share with you that paper, how our person calculated the missing women. So this is basically what is the threshold sex ratio, ideal sex ratio, and what is the realized sex ratio. If the gap is more, we will say that women are missing. So that's the way it was computed, and it is huge. And that's a major concern in the context of India. And gender budgeting focus on the missing women. That's a very contextual question you asked. And if you come up with the numbers, that catastrophe, it's a human catastrophe, and the number is greater than the combined casualties of both the world wars. So what are we speaking? That much women are missing because of this conscious decision taken up by Indians, some preference. That's a human catastrophe. We are trying,
Now it was changed, right?
It was changed. That policy, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao and all. So it is like sex ratio is improving. But, I don't believe in these numbers unless it comes up to maybe about 950 or 960, even 800 if you say that, where are the other girls? So if the child sex ratio is around 800 also, I am not happy. So, but it is improving, independently it is improving. There was a monotonic decline in the sex ratio. If you look into, we cannot say that it is because of the medical transformation, because the technology identifying the baby's sex and all came only in the late 80s. But if you look into the numbers even prior to the 80s, it is a monotonic decline. So the issue is real, but of course improvement is there, but I'm not satisfied with the improvement. And we need to wait for the recent numbers. Now the survey is getting delayed, census is getting delayed, so we need to wait for the recent numbers. Yeah, thank you. What about you? some punchline or something you enjoyed, some statement or something of mine you liked or... Fast. You didn't like anything like I spoke. Still tell something. Okay, you think about it. We will do the voting by. What about you? The boys, speak up. Malayalam, English, okay.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Undergraduate, first year in financial economics. I'm very happy to hear to be in this talk. And public finance is one of my interesting subjects. And I like to hear. I got many information from your talk for approximately 1.5 hours, and especially the information you have given about the Human Development Index. I'm very happy here. So, and I got so many things that in detail, and many number of papers or reference items or reports that I can refer to my taste. I'm thankful to you for this talk.
Okay.
And I have a question that in the whole lecture you talked about Human Development Index. Can you talk about other measures or other indexes or other scales that other than GDP that measures development?
Oh, great, good. We have a lot of measures about inequality, about multiple poverty index. There are a lot of MPI, a lot of indicators. Let me take up inequality index. Okay, 1 minute. Gender inequality index is calculated little differently from the gender development index. Inequality, they take into account of the governance deficit. Okay, they take into account of the reproductive health. So the dimensions incorporated in the gender inequality index is little different. But there are many technical issues with constructing women-specific indicators and clubbing it with gender disaggregated indicators like MMR, TFR. These are the specific indicators. So the moment we take the value 1 for male and put the value of the female just like that, we are assuming that everything is perfect when you put the value 1. Excuse me. So there are many issues technically. Then, if you ask me the indicators, the ultimate form of the indicator is happiness index. You know about it, right? What's your opinion about that? Happiness index?
I don't know much about happiness index. I just heard the term.
Heard about it.
Heard about the term, and I just studied the definition in my UG classes, but actually I don't remember.
Absolutely. So that's it. So if you ask me what are the various indicators other than GDI, of course we can measure the poverty with multiple poverty indicators. Then we can do the inequality indicators. We can get into the GDI, GII. So there are different indicators. These are all there in the the technical notes which I mentioned to Hari. So they have constructed all these things in a very simple manner. You can read around 4 or 5 indicators there. Okay. Good.
Okay, ma'am. Also, I have to use the word.
Excuse me. Yeah, batao. Yeah.
You said about introducing gender into infrastructure development. Can you explain something about that area, that introducing gender into infrastructure?
Definitely. Because now we are into an energy transition mode. Energy transition means we have commitments globally, right, for the climate change commitments. Along with that, there is a fiscal transition also, right? So within the framework of the fiscal transition and energy transition, where you can put a gender. So this is a question. Now, when you commit to the energy transition, we are committing that we will go non-fossil fuel economy. There is a gender lens to it because of the energy poverty. We call it as time poverty, which affects income poverty. Like that, we have energy poverty. So in the high table, we are discussing about energy poverty. So overnight, if you are moving towards a non-fossil fuel, of course we have issues related to that. Second, In the energy infrastructure, how do you want to incorporate a gender lens? We have spoken about it. Like providing clean fuel to the women in the household is very crucial, because otherwise the statistics reported that people dying out of indoor air pollution, that's greater than the death or the mortality reported from malaria. If there is an indoor air pollution, Alina asked about multitasking, like carrying the child, carrying the fuel load, she's coming home. That is multitasking. We incorporate that in the time use statistics. But after entering the home, she's cooking, maybe one chapati and some sabji for the kids. And if it is poorly ventilated, and if she's using inferior fuel, look at the statistics. Why should their life expectancy go down? Because they are doing normal activities. So there the state has got a role to, help them. That is energy infrastructure, isn't it? Then I explained to you the safety and security. That is a public transportation, street lighting, public spaces. All these expenditure decisions, they have an intrinsic gender lens. So, gender neutrality, assuming in infrastructure, that's not correct. So these are the quick examples came to me. Then gender neutral ministry is immigration. And if you are given an internship in the Ministry of External Affairs to do gender, the ministers and the officers will tell you that no, we don't have any gender element in this department. What exactly would you want to intern? Then we have to say that in the similar countries, like in Canada, they have given a study like the women in different countries as immigrants. There is of different category, as refugees, as spouse to, they will go for their husbands who are on inter-company transfer, who take the work with the work permit. So women as students. So all these categories of women in different countries, they experience subtle and strong violence, and these categories experience of violence differently. We need to answer. The external ministry is answerable for that. That's a gender lens. So when we say all these things, yeah, we can do something, then we first come up with data. Once we come up with data, then the rest of the policy making will be easier. So the data building is very crucial. So these are the quick examples, that came to my mind. That of course the gender neutral ministries, prima facie we feel that there is no gender lens can be applied with these ministries, but later on, Minister of Petroleum came up with gender lens in energy infrastructure. Minister of External Affairs started looking into, how the women experience violence differently. And there are studies about violence. And in University of California, they came up with a study that gender budgeting and violence against women, these are inversely related. Like the state machinery, when they support women, violence against women will be less. So that is an inverse relationship. Their study, they used our data, Indian data, across states data. So these are the ways in which we can see the impact of gender budgeting on outcomes. So there is another study by IMF Stotsky. I worked with her in IMF. That is, you write down and share with your friends. 150 working paper, 2016 IMF paper. This is related to the missing women in Asia. Also, I referred to that paper. That paper, you take a look if you're interested in the human development issues. In that paper also, we came to the conclusion that there's an inverse relationship between gender budgeting and the disparity of the girls in the education sector. So there are many studies which shows the outcome. It's outcome linked. So these are and even my book. Okay, I have a book with Algrid Macmillan. You can Google it. You can see the title of the book is Fiscal Policy for Sustainable Development. It's by Algrid. So that book, different chapters are there. You can take a look around tax, intergovernmental fiscal transfers, expenditure, then fiscal federalism. All these chapters are looked into through a gender lens. Even the benefit incidence analysis, I have looked into this international classification of disease and did that quintile wise analysis. So that's it. Any more questions? Thank you, Anand. Yeah. No more questions?